Okay, so we are back, and I apologize also for, is the audio quality noticeably worse? I mean, like in an interference way, or just no? Okay.
No.
All right, because I'm not using my fancy mic because I didn't bring it because I didn't think I'd be here, but whatever. Okay, so over the break, I got very, very into Ralph Waldo Emerson. I mentioned that I wanted to take up his Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem things that relate to the Rambam. I don't want to do that now, though, but what I did want to do is last night on Facebook, then a friend of mine, we were having a discussion about the Rambam and the Bahag, and a friend of mine made the statement, the Rambam loved making lists, and I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'd say that that's not how I would characterize what the Rambam did. And I found this passage in Emerson's essay called "The American Scholar," where I think it really like summarizes what the Rambam was trying to do. So I just wanted to read it and then just get your thoughts on it, which I thought would be a good way to just get back into the Rambam here. Okay, so this is in section 1.1 of the American Scholar. So he says like this. It's not a very long excerpt, just one page. So he says, the first in time and the first in importance of the influence upon the mind is that of nature. Every day the sun, and after sunset, night and her stars. Ever the winds blow, ever the grass grows. Every day men and women conversing, beholding and beholden. The scholar must needs stand wistful and admiring before this great spectacle. He must settle its value in his mind. What is nature to him? There is never a beginning, there is never an end to the inexplicable continuity of this web of God, but always circular power returning into itself. Therein it resembles his own spirit, whose beginning, whose ending he can never find, so endless, entire, so boundless. Far too as her splendors shine, system on system, shooting like rays, upward, downward, without center, without circumference, in the mass and in the particle, nature hastens to render account of herself to the mind. Now, this is my bolding, because this is the part that is reminds me of the Mission Torah. Let me just move the Zoom thingy for 1 second here. Okay, so then he says, classification begins. To the young mind, everything is individual, stands by itself. By and by, it finds how to join two things and see in them one nature, then three, then 3,000. And so tyrannized over by its own unifying instinct, it goes on tying things together, diminishing anomalies, discovering roots running underground, whereby contrary and remote things cohere and flower out from one stem. It presently learns that since the dawn of history, there has been a constant accumulation and classifying of facts. But what is classification but the perceiving that these objects are not chaotic and not foreign, but have a law which is also a law of the human mind? The astronomer discovers that geometry, a pure abstraction of the human mind, is the measure of planetary motion. The chemist finds proportions and intelligible method throughout matter. And science is nothing but the finding of analogy, identity in the most remote parts. The ambitious soul sits down before each refractory fact. One after another reduces all strange constitutions, all new powers to their class and their law, and goes on forever to animate the last fiber of organization, the outskirts of nature by insight. And the last paragraph here. Thus to him, to this schoolboy under the bending dome of day, is suggested that he and it proceed from one root. One is leaf and one is flower. Relation, sympathy stirring in every vein. And what is that root? Is it not that the soul of his soul? Is not that the soul of his soul? A thought too bold, a dream too wild. Yet when this spiritual light shall have revealed the law of more earthly natures, when he has learned to worship the soul, and to see that the natural philosophy that now is only the first gropings of its gigantic hand, he shall look forward to an ever-expanding knowledge as to a becoming creator. He shall see that nature is the opposite of the soul, answering to it part for part. One is seal and one is print. Its beauty is the beauty of his own mind. Its laws are the laws of his own mind. Nature then becomes to him the measure of his attainments. So much of nature as he is ignorant of, so much of his mind, his own mind, he does not yet possess. And in fine, the ancient precept, know thyself, and the modern precept, study nature, become at last one maxim. Yeah. So I guess my question for you is, whenever I'm in my English class and we read a passage together, my first thing is just any thoughts and impressions, observations. So that's one question I have. The other question is, how would you compare that to the statement of my friend characterizing the Rambam's activity as the Rambam loved making lists? So if you want to answer either question.
I mean, I have an answer to the second question, I guess.
Okay, sure.
That like the Rambam isn't just like, it's not just he, enjoyed making lists, and like he just wanted to come up with, like, he just whatever studied so that he can make lists of things and like put them all together in like nice neat categories. But like
Yeah.
that was part of a sort of like a larger activity of like, you know, like that is the way of like enhancing your Avas Hashem, is like having a clearer picture of what's going on. And like there's like a bunch of like chaotic seeming facts that you're exposed to in Torah, just like in nature, and like
Yeah.
to kind of like organize them is the activity of the mind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, very, very well said. Yeah. Yeah. I think that to me is what was missing. That making lists, first of all, sounds like, I mean, you can make lists based on a lot of stuff. You can make lists based on like accidental qualities. You can make lists based on like practical uses, but so making lists is not synonymous with chachma as an appreciation of the underlying lawfulness of XYZ, and like Emerson's talking about the underlying lawfulness of nature, Rambam's talking about the underlying lawfulness of Torah. And so, like you said, like it's critical for Avas Hashem to perceive the systems, and the Rambam was classifying things systemically in order to be able to perceive the underlying systems. And that's like, to call it making lists is like to trivialize it in my mind, yeah, Isaac?
Yeah, like similarly, like, physics has like boiled down like the laws of nature to like 4 fundamental principles.
Right.
And you wouldn't say, oh, they came up with a list of fundamental principles because they
Yeah,
want...
exactly. That's a good analogy. Right. Oh, those physicists love making lists. Yeah, that's good. Was there anything? So I think this part about the classification is very clear. I don't think we need to read the Rambam there. But this last part here about the relationship between knowledge of nature and knowledge of the soul, that to me reminded me of a very specific thing we learned in the Rambam. I'm curious if it reminded you of anything specific that we learned in the Rambam. Yeah.
It reminded me of the whole thing about like that, like the man of perfect knowledge is like,
oh, interesting,
the idea of man, like that is manness, I guess.
Yeah.
So like
real manliness.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So like so getting, I guess, become like knowing more of yourself and like becoming more of a full man, I guess,
Yeah.
is like getting more knowledge of.
Okay, that's actually far more accurate and precise than the thing I associated to. But I think you're right, especially the line that he says here with, where is the line? Yeah, he shall see that nature is the opposite of the soul, answering apart to part. One is seal and one is one is print. That to me, I think, again, without descending into the rabbit hole of the active intellect, I think that was the analogy that was used, that I said there's that, like, the active intellect is where the forms exist, and the material intellect, which is the human intellect, is what can be impressed by those souls, impressed in the like analogous sense, and impressed as in like being in awe, but of the way that they conceived of knowledge was of making your material intellect approximate the active intellect, and like the halakha that you were referencing just now of the tsura, what is it? Nefesh kol basar hi tzura shenas la'akel. The das ha'isera b'nafsho shel adam he das ha'adam hashalim b'dato. I think that was an exact quote. I'm not sure. That the perfected knowledge is the full form of the soul. Yeah, that's definitely, like, I think that is what Emerson is saying. Mine was more, I guess, of a drushy association, specifically with the. But I'm glad you brought that up, though. Specifically with the last line of so much of nature as he is ignorant of, so much of his own mind he does not yet possess. And in fine, the ancient precept, know thyself, and the modern precept, study nature, become at last one maxim.
Yeah, so what does that mean exactly? Because you're not like getting knowledge of yourself. Like it is like, I guess, I don't know exactly. Yeah, I guess leave it at that.
Well, so I think, so I don't actually know for sure what Emerson means by it, because I mean, the sense I get just from what I've read so far, I haven't finished this essay, but what I'm getting so far is that because, and let me think how to put it here, because you are part of nature, and because you are the thing in nature that can know nature, which I guess is similar to Judaism in the sense that man on earth is the only creature that can know the rest of the universe. So then by I don't actually know. I mean, I was going to say that it was what you were saying basically, is that you are actualizing your own soul by knowing nature, but I don't know. But you're not knowing your own soul, which is the thing. Yeah. I don't know exactly what he means, but I think we could apply it to the Mishnah Torah though. So what I was thinking at least is busha, is Aslo Evosh Ba'abiti El Kometz Vasecha, and which is the opening line of the Mishnah Torah. And I don't remember. I know we had several times where we examined that phrase. I don't remember what we said in the end, but one of the ideas I remember we talked about was that the Torah is a system. It's a regimen that brings those who practice it properly to true success, which is knowledge of God to the extent possible. So it is a system that is like an instruction manual to your own like life, your own living as a human being. And so to the extent that you don't know the mitzvos, you don't know yourself. And to the extent that you gain knowledge of the mitzvos, then you're really gaining knowledge of yourself and what it means to live. And so whatever Emerson means about applying this to nature, I feel like it does apply to the Mishnah Torah in that sense that, like David Melech saying, once I have knowledge of your mitzvos, then I will not be embarrassed, implying that to the extent that I don't have knowledge, then I am embarrassed. Oh, so before I go on, I just had another epiphany there. Does that make sense? But then I'm realizing now, another thing that we did, let me actually stop sharing this and go back to the actual Mishnah Torah. One of the last things we did, I'm realizing now, is he did talk about busha again, and I also don't remember what we said here, but let's just go back to this. At the end of Daled, in his restatement of Yiras Hashem and Avas Hashem, here. Bisman she'adam misbonin b'dvarim elu u'makir kula b'rim u'mimalach v'gavol v'adam v'kiyotzo V'yirah chachmas shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chol ha'yitrim b'chol ha'beruim mosif ahava l'makom v'titzma nafsho v'yichme b'sar lehov ha'makom Baruch Hu V'yirah v'yivchad mishifluso v'deluso v'kaluso kishiyarach atma le'echad mihagufos ha'kadoshim ha'gdolim v'koshkin le'echad mihatzuros ha'tahoros ha'nifrados min ha'glamim shelo yisnin yiskaver b'golim kla v'yimtza atmo shu kli male busha uchlima reich v'chaser. So that's actually saying, I'm saying almost the opposite, in the sense that the more knowledge you gain of the universe, the more busha you're going to feel. Do you remember what we said about that? I don't really remember how. We had a good explanation, and I know it's. I could listen to the podcast.
You're saying,
I think you have
the contradiction, like that. It seems like.
Yeah, just what? Well, I mean, even without the contradiction, just what did we say for the Rambam there? That how does the feeling of busha come from appreciating your place in the universe through knowledge?
Well, I'd say the more you have a sense of your place in the universe, the more you realize how like insignificant you are, and I guess a certain like feeling of like embarrassment or foolishness for like how important you feel like you are.
That's a good explanation. That is a good explanation. I don't think that's what we said, but that does make sense.
Yeah, I don't think we said that. I'm saying that now.
According to that explanation, so then the busha comes from the ego, then, right? From the exaggerated sense of your place in the universe that you had prior to the knowledge, and then the sense of your smallness in the face of this knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't we say, actually, you don't remember that? Maybe it was the idea that Zev was mentioning just now, the seeing how much you don't know and seeing how lacking you are as a
sorry, your audio is going like quiet and loud in like a.
Oh. Okay. Is it better now or not?
Mostly, but like you had like a crackle in the middle of.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll say that again. I said that it might go back to the ideas that was referencing about the fact that the human being with the actualized soul is the human being with knowledge of everything that can be known. So therefore, when you realize how much there is that you don't know, you as a surah are lacking, like you as an actualized form are lacking. Maybe that was actually, maybe I'm thinking now that was really the reik v'chaser part, maybe not the busha and klima. Yeah. And it is true that Emerson did not mention shame. He just mentioned the self-knowledge part. But I mean, the connection there is seeing the self in the context of the rest of the universe as illuminated by your knowledge. You know, that's something that you're gaining. You know, when you get this year's Hashem. Yeah. Alrighty. So just a thought. Let me know if you think of anything else along these lines. All right, let's. I'm going to stop this recording, and then we're going to start a new one for the new topic. All right, stop recording. Yeah.